Ice attacks are known to be highly effective against dragons, and anyone who's ever played Pokemon has probably realized this at some point. But the real question is this actually true? Would real-life dragons really have a significant weakness to ice? And if so, why or why not? Let's find out if Pokemon was right or not. And as usual, I will divide this discussion into two parts, and the first part will focus on non-magical dragons and how they might interact with the ice element. And let me say right away, non-magical dragons, while still powerful creatures, could theoretically exist in our own non-magical world. And I believe that these types of dragons would be extremely, and I mean extremely vulnerable to any ice. Because unlike birds, which can survive and even thrive in colder regions because of their feathers and their doust providing excellent insulation, dragons lack such protective plumage. Birds also have specialized circulation systems to prevent heat loss in their feet, because cold blood is basically warmed up by the warm blood that goes into the feet, and then the blood is already cold by the point it reaches the feet. And penguins, for instance, are perfectly adapted to life in the Arctic and Antarctic circles. But dragons, on the other hand, would lack both insulating feathers and protective fat layers, seen in creatures like walruses or seals. And adding such fat layers would make them too heavy to fly. So their large wingspan would lead to significant heat loss. And of course they need wind to get airborne in the first place. So they would lose a lot of heat very, very rapidly. And as reptilian-like creatures, they wouldn't generate body heat as effectively and efficiently as birds, which even have a much higher body temperature than us humans. And thus, realistically speaking, dragons would likely be limited to warmer climates, appearing in northern regions only during the summer if at all. And another point I want to make is, given their fragile bones and wings because they need to be lightweight to fly, these dragons would probably be more like wyverns, relying on venom strikes with their tail end to kill prey, rather than just brute force alone. So like wyverns, they might just strike with their venomous tail during flybys, without risking their claws, their mouth, their bodies or their wings, and then when the prey succumbs to the poison, to the toxins in their tail, then they would carry them off to a higher place and eat them in peace. And so if even normal environmental temperatures are very, very dangerous to these types of dragons, getting hit by an ice beam or a blizzard would be a certain KO. They would be super, super vulnerable to ice and snow and anything else that cools down their reptile-like bodies. But fantasy dragons, on the other hand, would likely be very highly resistant to ice. And the reason lies in the extreme difference between cold and heat, because absolute zero is just under minus 270 degrees Celsius, while temperatures like those produced by lightning, which is used by dragons in games like Elden Ring, can reach thousands of degrees Celsius. And it stands to reason that a creature capable of producing and controlling fire, light, and lightning would be naturally very resistant to the cold due to the high temperatures that they can produce and control. And even substances like liquid nitrogen, which can cause extreme cold and frostbite and frostburns, might not be enough to even approach the body of the dragon without being vaporized at first. And again, liquid nitrogen rapidly expands upon warming, and this could be damaging to the dragons, like this explosion could be very, very devastating, but this would be just an explosion attack, and nothing like freezing a dragon. So even very, very cold substances would just burn up in the presence of a dragon and its fiery aura. Moreover, magical dragons often have protective spells and enchanted scales, which might deflect or neutralize most attacks, including ice magic or even any magic, similar to how the Hydra in Mushoku Tensei could resist magic at all. Even that of the very, very overpowered Rudius Greirat. In short, fantasy dragons are likely highly resistant to ice attacks, due to their significant higher ability to control fire and high temperatures and creating them. So basically, cold can't even approach them. Then they have this immense magical power and age and the wisdom that comes with it, meaning that they will know how to counter it, just by instinct or by experience alone at an instance. And then there's their natural defense, including potential magical scales, and of course the ability to breathe fire, which would be a natural counter to any ice attacks, ice beams, and anything else that basically affects a dragon on this large scale. So while realistic dragons would struggle significantly with ice just in their own environment, due to their lack of insulation and heat generation capabilities, which again makes them very, very vulnerable to just colder climates, fantasy dragons would likely be able to shrug off ice attacks and ice beams with little difficulty, thanks to their magical nature and resistance to extreme cold, by simply being able to producing fire so warm and so hot that any ice would just melt. And that's it for today. And now it's your turn. What's your idea on the topic and what do you think would happen if realistic and if fantasy dragons would be hit by an ice beam or the equivalent attack? Let me know it down in the comment section. And while you type, I say thank you very much for watching. Thanks to all of my likers and viewers and supporters, and with that said, have a nice day.